So has it ever happened to you while playing Satisfactory that you want to turn gazillion resources into gazillion other resources, such as in this nice cave turning caterium ore nodes into caterium ingots with maximum efficiency and minimal effort? I will show you how to create stacked factories. Here we have our suspects, 3 caterium nodes. We add miners and power them up. For challenge's sake, let's limit ourselves to only using Mark IV conveyor belts and Mark I water pipes. So we connect each miner to a Mark IV belt and lead the golden stuff outside from the cave. We have 3 times 480 units of ore per minute, that is 1440 ore per minute. Now how do we convert these to ingots? Bringing up the recipe book, we find a very efficient recipe suitable for our needs. Each minute it needs 24 units of caterium ore and 24 cubic meters of water, and it produces 12 caterium ingots in return, a 2-to-1 ratio compared to the 3-to-1 ratio of the standard recipe. So we also need 1440 units of water. Given that one water pump gives out 12 units of water, we need 12 pumps in total. Let's find some water. We are at the swamp. It can't be that difficult to find water, can it? Well, it turns out it actually is. The water is not deep enough for our picky pump. Once in a while I get a brief flash of blue, and that's where I can place it, but apparently there's room for just one pump. Maybe we aren't going to fit 12 pumps here. But if we overclock the pump to 250%, it produces 300 cubic meters instead of 20, bringing the need down to just 5 pumps. So eventually we are able to place down 5 pumps and connect them to power and beautifully pipe them to a common location. Now let's begin designing the caterium ingot factory in the blueprint designer that we carefully place right here. I like to start by placing down 4-meter foundations in the center of the blueprint designer and placing the production machines on those foundations because it helps in avoiding too steep conveyor belts. On these foundations I place side by side 3-4 refineries. These refineries are set to produce caterium ingots using the pure caterium ingot alternative recipe. To determine how tall our blueprint is, we use a tiny production building, say a constructor, and move it such that it is no longer red. It doesn't matter if it's yellow, but it cannot be red. It is red over these chimneys, but in a leaning tower we are making, the chimneys are irrelevant. So we place the constructor as a marker of a safe location. Then we place a foundation under that constructor in the tallest possible position where it does not overlap with the constructor. If the constructor turns yellow, it's too high. Here, this is fine. This is the height where the next floor could be installed. Then extend the foundation towards all edges. The dummy constructor is no longer needed, so it can be disassembled. Now, we have 3 Mark IV inputs of caterium ore, so we create 3 vertical conveyors that bring the ore in, 1 conveyor for each input. The input at ground level points away from the blueprint and the output on the roof points the opposite direction. Let's mark one of these as the priority input. This time it shall be the leftmost edge. This is where we pull the ore from using a splitter. Now this splitter only has 2 outputs and we have 4 machines, so we have to use additional splitters. After some connecting here and there, all 4 machines have been fed. There is a teeny bit of overlap here and there, but it doesn't matter. Now there is the question of how do we make sure that we pull stuff from all of these conveyors. There are multiple ways to do that, but here is one solution that I like. First, all 3 lanes have a 480 ore per minute. Then we feed all machines from the first lane. They take 96, so 384 remains on the first lane. Now we split off the second lane and use a priority merger to take only as much as needed and not any more than that. So the first lane again has 480, but now the second lane only has 384. So we split off the third lane and use a priority merger to only take as much as needed and not any more than that, and now the second lane has 480. This process is easy to extend to an arbitrary number of lanes, and it even works if the lanes have different capacities, as long as the capacity of the first lane is sufficient to serve a single floor and the lanes are roughly sorted in descending order of capacity. Next we add little stubs of conveyor belt at the end of each vertical conveyor. This is necessary for the blueprint automatic connections feature to work. Without these stub belts, the conveyors wouldn't auto-connect. But you can delete the conveyor support poles to save some resources. Conveyor poles are completely unnecessary, they serve no purpose other than the visual one. Now the water pipes. As you recall, we have 5 pipes going in. To help place the pipes uniformly, we use pipeline supports and then connect those such that they are facing the same way as the vertical conveyors. The distance from the blueprint edge is not important as long as you have enough room to work with. Next we need pipeline pumps to push the water up. Using the 4-meter foundation blocks we measure that the height of the blueprint is roughly 26 meters. This is more than the maximum capacity of Mark I pipeline pumps, so for each pipe we are going to need 2 of them. Just make sure to point each of them up, not down. Then off these pipes we split water to the machines. It doesn't matter which pipes you use, just do what's convenient to you. But to make sure that each pipe contributes to the system, we are using pipeline junctions to merge all the pipes together. This way we can fully utilize the capacity of all 5 pipes. The pipeline supports can then be deleted because they serve no functional purpose. Now on the products side, from the 1440 inputs we are going to get 720 ingots, which requires 2 outputs. The outputs are built the same way as the inputs, except they have to be facing the same way. That is, the output, which is at ground level, will be facing towards the machine, and the input, which is on the roof, will be facing outside. Do not forget to reverse the conveyor. Make sure you have the green output arrow downstairs and a red input arrow upstairs. Then add a vertical merger to both conveyors. You can use whichever height and whichever orientation best works for you. Just connect all the outputs to these mergers. Now you may sometimes discover that the game forbids you from making certain conveyor belt shapes, claiming that it overlaps with the blueprint designer. The way you solve this is by adding a conveyor pole on the edge of the designer and then pulling a conveyor belt from that pole to the destination, both destinations. You can delete the pole afterwards. This is an awkward limitation in the game, but luckily it's not too troublesome to overcome. And then, just as before, we add a little stub belts to both ends of the vertical conveyors. Here is another caveat. You must only add these stubs after you have built the vertical splitters or mergers. If you do any modifications to the vertical splitters or mergers after you have installed these stub belts, the stub belts will be silently disconnected from the vertical conveyors and the belts will not work. The vertical splitters and mergers are quite finicky indeed. Lastly, we must do the power wiring. I like to add a differently colored concrete block to which I attach a power outlet. From this power outlet I power all the machines, in this case 4 refineries and 10 pipeline pumps. Don't forget to power them all. Once that is done, all that remains is to save the blueprint. Swamp Gold takes 1440 caterium and water in input, produces 720 caterium ingots, provided you build 15 floors. Now where is a good place to install this tower? Right about here seems fine. Connect the water pipes cleanly and neatly like this, and then connect the ore conveyors equally beautifully like this. Then power the tower. Let's store the outputs in a storage container right here. For good measurements, let's add a throughput monitor so we can see how much stuff exactly we are producing. Now it's time to add a second floor. Use the R key to change the build mode to Blueprint with Autoconnect and the H button to lock a hologram in place. Then use the arrow keys and page up and page down to position the hologram properly so that all inputs and outputs lock, indicated by the tiny teal chain symbol that is sometimes difficult to see. Make sure that the symbol is found next to everything that is supposed to be auto-connected, 2 outputs and 8 inputs in this case. Do not forget to connect power from the floor to the next. The game does not automatically link power. My method of keeping track of how many floors I have built is to add a little knob in a visible place. One knob for every 5 floors. 2 knobs means 10th floor and 3 knobs means 15th floor. I also like to add these floodlights to the top floor, pointing downwards and illuminating the factory floor around the tower. It helps offset the issue where many adjacent towers will make your factory very shadowy and dark. Now you are encouraged to carefully verify your blueprint for correctness before building the full tower. In my case, I accidentally installed one of these pipeline pumps the wrong way. Instead of up, it was pumping water down. So I had to replace the pump in every one of those 15 floors and reconnect the power. But once I had done that, the tower was working fine. Of course, you are not going to get full capacity right away. The water in particular takes time to reach the top floors. This is reflected in the input belts. As you can see, one of these belts is not at full capacity yet. They should all be 480, but this one is much less. But given enough waiting, the issue resolved. Now there is one more caveat. Should you decide to dismantle the tower for any reason, the blueprint dismantle feature is a very useful feature indeed, but any structure that you manually modified, such as the pipeline pumps in my case, will be left behind. And so too will the vertical conveyors. Every single vertical conveyor that had a vertical splitter or a merger on it will be left behind. This has been reported as a bug many times, but so far it has not been addressed, unfortunately. Perhaps in the 1.2 release it finally will, but there we are. Happy building!